all those times that I've told you that your favorite hockey team only performs properly when it fully respects the team at the other end of the ice. What about fully respecting the situation at hand? Good morning to you. Good Tuesday morning from Newark, New Jersey. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports, and this is Daily Shot of Penguins. Comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates in the same place that you found this. Penguins versus Devils here, right across the street from me, actually, the Prudential Center. 7:08 p.m. face-off. And the stakes can't be bigger if you happen to be one of those believers in the value of qualifying for the Stanley Cup playoffs. I am. I don't apologize for that. I don't pause even for a second in thinking it over, primarily because I don't see any grand blow-up rebuild at hand. You're going to see players moved out, but you're not going to see a completely gutted, fire sale, get rid of everybody for parts type of summer. You're just not. That's actually not even possible in the National Hockey League because the salary cap system forces you into a range. You can't just whack it all down to the ground. I also can't be convinced that there's some grand payoff as it relates to the upcoming NHL draft. 25% of all first-round picks in this league play as many as 200 games. I think there's much more to be had by at least gaining the playoffs, at least regaining some self-respect. And as such, I happen to think that this is kind of a do-or-die game here tonight. That's not to say if they win, they're in, but it is to say if they lose, it's going to be tough. The Capitals won last night over the Flames 5-2 out in Calgary, and that put the Capitals over the Red Wings. So the Penguins' distance between themselves and the second and final wildcard spot is now 6 points. And you know what? Good. Because I started to see some signs, that this team is collecting itself and putting itself back into that mode like we saw in the first half of the season where they could beat anybody. And no one was really surprised. Remember some of those games? Look at the standings. Look at the overall standings. Look at some of the very top teams. And you'll see a list of teams the Penguins have beaten this year. And then if you keep going, you'll see a list of teams that really, really annoy the Penguins, often into submission. This is one of those. The Devils are one of those. The Hurricanes are another. The Maple Leafs are another. The Sabres, for some bizarre reason, are another. The Senators, I should put on that list. There's 5 of them. Younger teams that just kind of fly around, cause chaos, and the Penguins really don't know what to do with it. So they kind of fall into the chaos or they fall into trying to keep pace, and neither of those things works. Look, one way or another, they have to win this game tonight. I really believe that. I don't know that they need to win in regulation. That obviously helps because I don't know that the Devils are going to be the team that they'd be chasing if they got onto some kind of roll. But they have to win. They can't be getting some loser point and walking out of here and then heading to Dallas and Denver and thinking, yeah, we'll just take care of the Stars and the Avalanche. They can't say that. I can. They have to get this done. And I think that's a good place for this team to be in a strange, ironic kind of way. They function better like this. They defend better like this. One of the things I asked Mike Sullivan about after the win over the Red Wings a couple nights ago was what he thought of the team's defensive work, because I kind of liked it after one massively awful shift in the first period, as I thought they all looked pretty committed and even organized in terms of pushing Detroit out to the sides. Now, the Red Wings have a pretty good line, and they came at the Penguins pretty hard, and they were able to get in there. but not much else was. And I thought that was a good look for the team. Sullivan acknowledged that. Sullivan said he feels that part of the game is getting a little bit better, although he had to be careful with how he said it because it was only 24 hours earlier that the Rangers were scoring a zillion goals from right in front of the net. But you got to start building on top of something. And if you're going to build a run, that's the way to do it. Oh, and by the way, this is also the time to do it. When we come back at J1Q. Today's J1Q comes from Chris, who asks, boy, is Chris the first one to bring this subject up? Do you feel that the Chad Ruhwedel trade was a good or a bad trade from a long-term perspective? I mean, how about a nice little shout out to Ruhwedel before I even get going? This was a really serviceable player who was, in his time in Pittsburgh, and I mean from front to end, the consummate professional. Never complained. The 1 year that Jim Rutherford signed him to an NHL contract and made clear to him in advance that he was the number 7 defenseman and that there was a really good chance he was going to spend the bulk of the season sitting in the press box. Not a peep, not a thing. I don't know that I've seen someone like that with this team in my many years of covering it. But then he'd pop down from the press box. He'd go 30 straight games. You wouldn't think a thing about it, and you wouldn't for a second consider taking him out of the lineup. Kyle Dubas's explanation for the Ruhwedel trade was more in the immediate context than anything to the future. In the future, for anybody who doesn't know, the Penguins picked up a 4th rounder in the year, I don't know, $50 billion and 7 or something like that. I think it's like 3 or 4 years down the road. But what Dubas said about the short term was that the reason that the Penguins made the move was to clear out space for younger players to get an opportunity there. Now, if you take 2 and 2 and put them together, you would have Ruhwedel getting moved out so that the big right-handed defenseman, Wilkes-Barre Scranton, Jack St. Ivany, would get a chance. And St. Ivany was promoted over the weekend, didn't get into the lineup. Over the past 24 hours, he has apparently, and they don't have to announce all of these, been moved up and down between the NHL and the AHL like a half dozen times or something. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that. It's just been up and down and up and down. I have no idea what that signifies. I actually really don't care all that much. But what I think does matter here is that if you're going to make this move and you want to see what St. Ivany has, and the only person who would be paying a price in that event is P.O. Joseph, okay, just go ahead and do it. I mean, you know what you have in P.O. Do you really think P.O. is going to help you win this game here in Newark tonight? Do you? I don't know. I mean, maybe I can eat my words and we can start the show tomorrow talking about P.O.'s hat trick, but I don't think so. In fact, I think there's a pretty decent chance that he'd be an upgrade. I also think it behooves the Penguins to make sure that they've got right-handed people on the right side of their defense. And I am not, repeat, not taking John Ludwig out of the lineup. So it would be nice for a whole bunch of reasons if St. Ivany can make his NHL debut here tonight. And if I had to throw one more thing in to address your actual question as to why the Penguins made the move, I don't think Dubas is going to be all that comfortable just blurting out to the masses that the reason you do it, or one reason that you do it, is because of cap issues. Now, there's no great savings when it comes to moving Ruhwedel off your cap roll, but there's all kinds of other implications that come with that, and I would be very surprised if that didn't factor into this in some form. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everyone listening to Daily Shot of Penguins, and we're going to cover the P.O. hat trick tomorrow.